Shalom. Before I get started, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi, bahasham, Rawchaa Qadash. It's the brother of Bakala Walam, here with another hopeful, edifying lesson to the elect body of Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi. This lesson, is going to be about Esau's unrighteous decrees and his basically his view on the nation of Israel, which you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. And ultimately, he want to put you in a state of slavery as much as he can. And that's this guy right here. I don't know what his name is, Jim Clyburn. He's a congressman. Says right here, says Representative Jim Clyburn believes that MAGA Republicans absolutely wants to reinstitute Jim Crow. They wish to get us back as close to slavery as they can possibly get us to without violating the Constitution. Clyburn tells Margaret Hoover, Margaret Hoover. Like, check out the interview on PBS. And this is United States Code, Section 17, subsection 107, Fair Use Act, right? Fair Use, 17 United States Code, subsection 107, right? For Fair Use Act. Fair Use, this is for documentary, commentary purposes, educational purposes, right? So I'm going to play this video, then I'm going to show you another video that more or less demonstrates what he's saying. Let me go back.
You write at one point in the book, the MAGA Republicans and their supporters who want to make America great again want to be remaking it in the image of the antebellum era. I just want to be clear. Are you saying you think they want to reinstate slavery?
No. They wish to get us back as close to slavery as they can possibly get us to without violating, because the Constitution, they can't do it. Jim Crow? Yes.
So you think they would reinstitute Jim Crow?
Absolutely. And I think the Supreme Court is well on the way to doing that. Remember, all of this started with a Supreme Court decision called Dred Scott. That's what defined and laid the foundation for all of this stuff. And then we got another case called Pleasant versus Ferguson. That's established separate and equal.
Well, and of course, the Supreme Court during Reconstruction overturned the Civil Rights Act.
Yes.
So
the Supreme Court did. Civil Rights Act was overturned by the United States Supreme Court. And what has just happened with the 1965 Voting Rights Act? The first, they're doing it a little more sophisticated, but they're doing that. This Supreme Court is overturning the Voting Rights Act.
To be really clear, your view is the MAGA Republicans are explicitly racist and want to turn the country back towards a time that approaches Jim Crow, if not achieving it.
I don't know that I would call all MAGA Republicans that. I'm very circumspect about using the term. They are racist. I don't put that label on any one person, but I know what the word means. It's sitting there in the dictionary for anybody to understand it. They are white supremacists, and there are people who are supporters of this president who admit to me that they are white supremacists. I've had people who support this president tell me that they thought that slavery was a good thing. And really, for us to deny that this exists, I don't know why we would do that.
You've had people tell you who support this president that they thought slavery was a good thing.
Absolutely. Right to my teeth.
Constituents?
Absolutely. In my congressional district.
What's that like?
Sometimes I keep things to myself.
So that was basically a testimony, that this representative here in Congress, he said even constituents, meaning his fellow colleagues, and they're Edomites, said that slavery was a good thing, and they're working on laws to put you back into slavery right now. Supreme Court, based upon what he's saying, right? It's in the making, right? And now this video here, which I'm about to show, basically, of systemic racism at the center of a new lawsuit against this video here basically demonstrates or basically validates what he's saying. And this is in New Jersey. I think it's called Clark County or something like that, or New Jersey. Now listen to this video. Allegations of systemic racism at the center of a new lawsuit against a township in New Jersey, its police department, and a former mayor. That criminal complaint filed by the state of New Jersey alleges Clark Township and police department leaders regularly instructed officers to keep Black people out of Clark. And the state attorney general says Clark leaders put policies in place with that goal in mind. New Jersey reporter Tony Yates live this evening in Clark with details on these disturbing allegations. Tony? Yes, Sandra, we reached out to the current mayor of Clark, Angel Albanese. The township clerk said that the mayor would have no comment about the attorney general's complaint, which is asking for, among other things, continued oversight of not only the township, but of the police department as well. The investigation into discrimination in Clark Township has been ongoing for years now. The Union County Prosecutor's Office assumed control over the police department back in 2020 after a whistleblower's recordings documented racist remarks by former Mayor Salvatore Bonacorso and police leaders at the time, and numerous complaints were filed by the public against police. Attorney General Matt Platkin and the Division on Civil Rights says Clark officials systematically discriminated against and harassed Black and other non-white drivers, and that those efforts were led and encouraged by Mayor Bonacorso and Police Chief Pedro Matos. The investigation reveals Bonacorso instructed officers to, quote, keep Black people out of Clark, for example, by focusing more patrols and traffic stops on roadways coming from neighboring towns that have higher minority populations, and using the excuse of smelling marijuana as a reason to stop and search Black and Hispanic drivers. The officers involved, including Chief Pedro Matos, are still suspended with pay. Mayor Bonacorso stepped down in January of 2025 after facing both corruption and discrimination charges. The state's complaint has been filed in New Jersey Superior Court, the Attorney General saying the motion seeks to stop harassment in the township. It calls for continued monitoring of township leaders and the police department, and seeks damages for all of the people who were victimized. He tried to do the right thing every step of the way here, and every step of the way it was just obstacle after obstacle. His pension was withheld for years. Shows that all of his hard work and everything he went through was actually for a purpose. Now, that attorney was referring to the whistleblower who first let the state know what was happening here in the police department. Late this afternoon, Clark's PBA released a statement blasting the attorney general's decision, saying in part their members were outraged by the backdoor comments made by leaders of their department years ago, that they have committed to fair and transparent policing during this change in oversight, that the officers themselves made the cultural shift not because of lawsuits, but because it was the right thing to do. For now, we're live here in Clark, New Jersey. Tony Yates, Channel 7 Eyewitness News. So right there shows you a, a demonstration of systemic racism, right? Using the system, passing laws to discriminate, more or less segregate an area, this Clark County, from black and brown people. They had the mayor and the chief of police conspired against black and brown, allegedly, black and brown people, blacks and Hispanics, and to basically harassing them to keep them from coming in the area, and basically it was what just like this Congress representative here was in a Claiborne. Like he said, there's laws on the books to bring back Jim Crow, and that was a segregation tool. If you don't know what Jim Crow was, you know, uh, what was Jim Crow laws? All right, just Google what was Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws were state and local statutes in the United States, predominantly in the South, that legalized racial segregation and marginalized African Americans from the post Civil War era until roughly 1968, right? So after the Civil War, up until 1968, that wasn't too long ago. These laws enforce a separate but equal doctrine mandating segregation in schools, public facilities, transportation, and housing, while disenfranchising black citizens. And that's still, you see the results of that still happening today, right? Forced segregation, and the so-called black people get the poorest quality of anything. You know, they say separate but equal, but it's never equal. You're never equal to Esau, right? These Edomites, and like in this town or this county of Clark, they use systemic racism, a system, laws in place, more or less equal to Jim Crow, to segregate this area from black and brown people, man. And like that guy said, that was an example of that. So that's is more or less is true. What it says in this is Isaiah chapter 10. This is where Esau ultimately want to put you. Like this guy said, they can't violate the contract. They won't put you as close as they can back to slavery without violating the Constitution and implementing these Jim Crow laws, so-called separate but equal. But it's a facade in itself. You're never equal. Even during that time, there was no equal to Esau during the Jim Crow era. Uh, the so-called Negroes, Latina, applies for all the tribes. They got the second hand and outdated and what they call obsolete, outdated sources of everything. This is Isaiah chapter 10 and 1. It says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed." Right. So that's what ultimately Esau wants to do. These unrighteous decrees. And ultimately that's the plans of the elite with their new world order, fourth industrial revolution, ultimately to enslave the whole population of the earth. I'm getting out the blue letter. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 1, it says, "Woe to them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed," right? To turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless, right? So that's these devils. They write these unrighteous decrees, these policies, For example, was stated, they want to by this Congressman Claiborne, and he said that he had constituents, colleagues in Congress, Edomites, saying that slavery was a good thing. That's why these devils going back to slavery themselves. And you can see that, and when we say it's a bad thing, oh, you support slavery, but that's what they're doing, man. You know, Esau's doing. You know, in a like this word insidious. You know, I bring that up a lot. This word insidious. He's doing it in an insidious way that you can't tell what he's doing. You know, meaning what? Gradually, but it's harmful to you. Look up the word insidious. It's a gradual effect that's harmful to you that you won't realize it till it's too late. So that's how this devil, he want to implement back, he want to implement slavery. He want to put you back in slavery. But when we tell you that these devils going back into slavery, these devils going back into slavery or going into slavery, you looking at us crazy, man. You know what I'm saying? And these ain't our words. These are the words of the Bible. These are the words of the creator of the heavens and the earth. Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi. Right? These are his words. This is not our words. And to prove that, this is Revelation chapter 13 and 10. I think it's 13 and 10. Yeah, this is the book of Revelation chapter 13 and 10. It says, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Right? So these devils led us into captivity. And their approach is they want to put you back into captivity or close to slavery as they can. And that's implementing these Jim Crow laws. You can't be over here, boy. You know what I'm saying? You're not allowed over here, you know. So these devils want to put you back in captivity as close as they can get you, right? But like when we say that they're going into captivity, these devils, along with these 2/3 Negroes, they looking at you crazy, you know, like you some damn hate, like you like Esau. They trying to treat you like, they trying to treat us like we Esau, like we going around lynching, killing, murdering, stealing, robbing, depriving white people because we're speaking according to what's written in the Bible. You know, we don't condone any violence, anything like that of that nature. All we do is speak according to what's written, the real interpretation, and we have been looked at, we have been demonized, right? And that's all in the scriptures, right? But like the scripture says, Revelation 13 and 10, it says, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints, right? So that's what we are waiting for, patiently waiting. This is part of our faith, our belief that these devils are going into captivity. And just like you've seen here, you've seen examples of that, you know, and there's many examples how these devils really looks at Jake, how they really feel towards Jake. They still got that perpetual hatred, but they want to overlook it. You know, they want to never mind it and dwell on Jake as the issue. You know, Jake, so-called Negro, primarily is the face of the issue, the face of the problem, the face of criminality. You know, anything you do, you know, that's the issue at hand. Esau get you overlooked with the overwhelming atrocities and criminality that he's been um um he's been um exposed by over and over constantly. It just get, you know, seemingly swept under the rug. You know, like they can care less. Like it's nothing to pay attention to. It's like, yeah, right. Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, they look at us when we tell you that Esau's going into captivity. They looking at us like we like, they looking at us like we committed the atrocities of Esau, right? But slavery is not going to be like how these Edomites had our people. They did our people wickedly, in a wicked manner. They went about um, having us in captivity in a wicked, despicable way, right? So that's how they did it. But we're not going to do them like that. But these acts, these wicked acts that they did to us, like buck breaking, things of that nature, raping women, men, and children, things like that. That's not going to go on, you know. But these devils will get payback, right? We're not going to do them because that's how they're. When they look at slavery, these people they equate it to how these devils had our people into slavery. So they think that according to how they done our people, slavery is a bad thing. Of course, what these devils done to our people was a atrocity. Of course, that's without a doubt. You know, eating our people. Feeding our children to alligator. Eating our people. We're not going to do that. You know, making out, putting, turning, other, I can't say about other things, what I'm saying, but eating our people and bug breaking, raping the men, women, and children, things like that. We're not going to be doing those despicable acts, man. These wicked acts that these devils had done to our people. Because, like I said, they equate slavery to what these devils had done to our people. And they look at it like, oh, slavery is a bad thing. Nah, because these devils had done the atrocities. And that's not, and more or less, slavery is written all through the Bible. I got another precept I want to get. Let me see. It says Ezekiel 35 and 15. Let's see what it says. This is Ezekiel 35 and 14. It says, thus saith the Lord God, Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi, when the whole earth rejoiceth, I will make thee desolate, as thou didst rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel, because it was desolate. So will I do unto thee. Thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, and all Idumea, even all of it, and they shall know that I am the Lord Yahawah, right? So the Lord's going to make these devils desolate, and part of that desolation or destruction is being put into captivity, right? O Mount Seir. So I'm going to read it out of the Amplified so you know it's talking about these Edomites. It says, thus saith the Lord God, Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi, Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi, while the whole earth rejoice, I will make you a wasteland, as you rejoiced over the inheritance of the house of Israel. Right? They inherited us, had us in their possession, because it was desolate. So will I do to you. You will be a desolate waste, O Mount Seir, and all Edom, all of it. Right? All of it. Then they will know without any doubt that I am the Lord Yahawah, right? And Idumea is a Greek way of saying Edom, right? Idumea is just a Greek way of saying Edom. So the whole nation of Edom is going into captivity. So they had the whole nation of Israel in the captivity, all 12 tribes, right? Let me see, Isaiah 45 and 14. It's Isaiah 45 and verse 14. It says, thus saith the Lord Yahawah, the labor of Egypt and the merchants of Ethiopia and the Sabians, men of stature, shall come over unto thee, and they shall be thine. they shall come after thee in chains. They shall come over, and they shall fall down unto thee. They shall make supplication unto thee, saying, Surely the Most High is in thee, and there is none else. There is no other God, right? So that's why these devils they're gonna come in chains, man. They're gonna be brought into chains. The modern day Egyptians, all these Edomites, they'll be brought over in chains. As they had done unto us, is gonna be done unto them, right? Jeremiah 30 and 16. Jeremiah 30 and 16. It says, Therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity, and they that spoil thee shall be spoiled, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey, right? So he's talking about these Edomites, man. You know, our adversaries means enemies are these other nations. The top nation is Edom. You read that in Psalms, I think 83. Psalms chapter 83. It tells you the enemies of Israel, the enemies of Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawah. And it starts with the tabernacles of Edom, right? All these other nations. All of these nations are going into captivity. There's 8 Amos 9 and 11. This is the book of Amos, chapter 9 and 11. It says, In that day I will raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. And I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old, that they may possess the remnant of Edom, right? We're gonna possess Edom, the remnant, basically starting with these elites, because they're gonna be hiding in these bunkers and in the caves and under the ocean, in the oceans, and in the mountains, bunkers, and in space stations and things of that nature. That's where these elites are going to be hiding. But the majority of these Edomites are going to be wiped out. Most definitely in Babylon the Great, they're going to be wiped out. They're going to be wiped out over here. This is Amos 9 and 12. It says that they may possess the remnant of Edom, and all the heathen which are called by my name, saith the Lord Yahawah, that doeth this, right? So that's what's going to happen, man. The Lord is going to make us possess the remnants of Edom and all our enemies, all these heathen nations. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahawah, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him that soweth seed. And the mountain shall drop sweet wine, and all his hills shall melt, and all the hills shall melt, right? And I will bring again the captivity of my people of Israel, and they shall build the waste cities and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and drink the wine thereof. They shall also make gardens and eat the fruit of them, right? And I will plant them up, and I will plant them upon their land, and they shall no more be pulled out of their land, which I have given them, saith the Lord God, Yahawah bahasham, Yahawahshi, right? Saith the Yahawah thy power, right? So yeah, these devils are going into captivity. And like I said, man, this video shows you that even from this guy, they want to implement They want to put you as close as they can back into slavery, man. And ultimately, with this digital age, this advanced digital age, the fourth industrial revolution, this devil is trying to enslave everybody on the planet Earth by putting a device in them, which is the RFID microchip, which is the MARK, Revelation chapter 13. But these devils, even currently, they trying to come about in these insidious ways to bring about slavery, passing laws to target you. Was Esau been doing that? He's still doing that without the laws. These devils do it on their own. They been targeting Jake. These devils in these costumes, portraying like they upholding law and order. They just in a costume, man. They just playing some role. It's an act, basically. Basically, they're hypocrites, right? Actors. So yeah, that's these devils' whole intention, man. Esau, he want to put you back into slavery if he can, man. If he could get away with it, he'd do it. And ultimately, with this device that's going to be mandatory to be embedded in you, that's going to be the ultimate plot to enslave you, right? This is I'm gonna leave it on. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 12 and 10. It says, "Never trust thine enemy." Right? You seen the enemies of the Lord. Psalms 83. Right? And then starting with the tabernacles of Edom. These Edomites, they're the top enemies of the nation of Israel. The top enemies of Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi. Right? It says, "Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusts, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and be aware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust has not been altogether wiped away." Right? So that's how these Edomites trying to approach right now. Like nowadays, they humbling and crouching. That's their mannerism around Jake, and Jake think these devils are changed because a lot of them going around humbled and crouching around Jake, you know, and they think that that these devils have changed. The Lord said, "Never trust them. Take good heed and watch them, man, and you'll see that their wickedness have not been altogether wiped away. Set him not by thee, lest when he have overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith." Right? So never put these devils among you. And what they're gonna do is try to undermine you and take your place. And they already did that. That's why they call themselves who they call themselves today, the Amalekites. That's what they're doing. They're saying they are the chosen. Verse 13, it says, who would pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or such as come now wild beasts? So one that goeth to a sinner and is defiled with him in his sins, who would pity, right? So these devils are equivalent to a wild beast, a wild animal, a serpent that you should be aware of, right? For a while he will abide with thee, but if thou begin to fall, he will not tarry, right? He's not going to be, he'll probably deal with these niggas for a minute, but once you begin to fall, he's not going to stick around and help you out, man. He's not going to aid you, An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit. He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, You will not be satisfied with blood, right? So that's what these devils doing. They're imagining how to throw thee into a pit, and how they're doing it is through these laws, these unrighteous decrees, these policies. I think the book of Micah tell you they are upon their beds, right? Let me see. Yeah, the book of Micah, chapter 2. The book of Micah, chapter 2 and 1, it says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand," right? So that's what these devils do, man. All they doing is imagine how to throw you in a pit, a trap, a system. That's what a pit means. Pit also means system. That's why it says systematic racism. They imagine how to throw you, how to trap you up, throw you into a pit all the day long, and they use these policies and unrighteous decrees to do so, right? To discriminate, to target, to oppress you, to incriminate you with these unrighteous decrees and these policies, right? That's what this devil do. That's how he's throwing you into a pit. He's using his his policies, his legislation, to do so, right? Micah chapter 2 and 1, it says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and that work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses, and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage," right? So even right, you see that happening even in Philadelphia. For instance, also they did that to these black museums. They try to defund them. And they oppressing a man in his heritage, right? That was passed laws to take away a house that more or less you're supposed to own. But if you fall behind on not paying your taxes and things of that nature, any property that you own, house, vehicle, whatever, they can take it away for little to nothing. A couple $1,000s, then you done paid $2, $3, $4,000. I mean, $2, $3, $400,000 for a house, and these devils will take it away for a couple $1,000s or a couple $100, man. They'll take your house away, you know. So they even oppress a man in his heritage. They taking down, that happened in Philadelphia. They took down these black memorials of slavery because this devil is ashamed of his glory. That's how they came about, through through um through acts of violence, acts of oppression, despicable, heinous acts. That's how they came into power. And now they're shameful spewing upon their glory, and it's recognized, and they want to take it down. And they making these laws to do so, oppress a man in his heritage. Verse 3 says, "Therefore thus saith the Lord Yahawah, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for the time is evil." And that's talking to Esau, Edom. That pertains to these Edomites right now. The whole family of Edom, the Lord has devised an evil for these people because of what they done, right? So yeah, that these devils, even in their legislation, they got systemic racism even to this day. They're trying to use policies and systems to put you back into slavery. You can't come over here. And they use their law enforcement agencies to bring about their um discrimination and their oppressive and and to express their hatred towards you, they put it into law, right? And they don't want nothing to do with Jake. Ultimately, man, these devils want to put you back into slavery, just like that Congressman Clyburn, just like he said, man. And you've seen an example of that in Clark, New Jersey, the county of Clark in New Jersey. Mayor and a police chief putting out policies targeting black and brown, Negroes and Latinos, man. And that's not the only area that's doing that, man. It's happening all over the nation of America, Babylon. So I'm gonna go and end it off there. I hope it was edifying to the elect. And I want to say, call halayallah, Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi, bahasham, Rawchaa Qadash. Shalom. Till next time, Yahawah, Ratazah, which means Lord willing, and Wah Abba Babal.